Hello everyone. Welcome back to Talkish English Channel. I'm Alex. And today we're going to share a conversation story that feels just like real life. The kind of English you can actually use every day.
Hi everyone. I'm Emma. If you've ever felt like your English sounds too textbook, or you don't know how to keep a conversation going, this story-style conversation will help you relax and enjoy speaking.
So Emma, let's imagine a normal day. Nothing special. Just one of those days where life slowly unfolds. I woke up this morning feeling a little tired. And the first thing I said out loud was, I really don't feel like getting out of bed today. Quote,
I know that feeling so well. When that happens to me, I usually stare at the ceiling and think, okay, just 5 more minutes, even though I know it's never just 5 minutes.
Exactly. And while I was getting ready, I started talking to myself in English without even realizing it. I said, I need to hurry up or I'll be late, and suddenly English felt very natural. Not forced at all.
That's such an important moment. Because that's when English becomes part of your life. Not just something you study. When I'm brushing my teeth, I say things like, I should have gone to bed earlier, and it feels like real thinking. Just in English.
Later that day, I went out to grab a coffee. And while waiting, I noticed how people around me were chatting so easily. I thought to myself, I want my English to sound that relaxed, and that motivated me to keep practicing.
I love moments like that. They remind you why you started learning English in the first place. Sometimes I imagine myself telling a story to a friend and I say, you won't believe what happened today, even if no one is actually there.
Storytelling is such a powerful way to practice. That afternoon, something small but funny happened to me. I accidentally sent a voice message instead of a text. And I laughed and said, well, that's embarrassing. Quote,
oh, I've done that too. And moments like that are perfect for English practice because they come with emotion. I usually say, why does this always happen to me? And honestly, that sentence sticks in your memory.
Later in the evening, I felt tired but satisfied. And I found myself reflecting on the day in English. I said, today wasn't perfect. But it wasn't bad either, and it felt very comforting.
Reflection is such an underrated practice. Before bed, I always review my day and say things like, I did my best today, or tomorrow, I'll try to do better, and those sentences feel very natural.
And the more you do this, the more confident you become. English stops being scary and starts feeling like a tool you can use to express who you are.
Exactly. You don't need big words or complicated grammar. You just need honest thoughts and real situations.
That's why conversation stories work so well. They connect English to real life, real feelings, and real moments.
If you're watching right now, imagine your own day and try telling your story in English. One sentence at a time.
Don't rush. Don't worry about mistakes. Just speak.
Because every sentence you say brings you one step closer to fluency.
Thank you for practicing with us today.
This is Talkish English Channel.
And we'll see you in the next conversation. And as the night went on, I realized something interesting. When I let my thoughts flow naturally in English, I didn't feel nervous at all. I wasn't translating from my native language anymore. I was just thinking.
That's such an important turning point. I remember when that started happening to me. At first, my thoughts were very simple. Like, I'm tired, or I'm hungry, but over time they became longer, more detailed, and more expressive.
Yes, exactly. I started describing things in my head. Like, the room feels quiet and peaceful right now, and it felt surprisingly comfortable. It made me realize that English doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful.
I agree so much. Sometimes learners think they need advanced vocabulary to sound fluent. But actually, fluency is about flow. For example, instead of searching for big words, I might say, I don't know how to explain it, but it feels right, and that's real English.
The next day, when I woke up, I decided to challenge myself. I told myself, today, I'm going to live my day in English as much as possible, even if it was just small sentences.
I love that challenge. When I do that, I narrate my actions like a story. I'll say, I'm getting dressed, I need to find my keys, or, I hope the weather stays nice today, and suddenly English becomes part of my routine.
While having breakfast, I even commented on my food in English. I said, "This tastes better than I expected," and I laughed because it felt silly, but also very effective.
It might feel silly at first, but that's how children learn language. They describe everything around them. When I drink coffee, I'll say, "This coffee is too strong," or "I should have added more milk," and those phrases stick.
Later, I met a friend, and even though we spoke in our native language, I replayed the conversation in my head in English afterward. I thought, how would I say this in English? And that helped me practice naturally.
That's such a smart technique. I do that too. After any interaction, I reflect and say, next time, I could say it this way, and it helps prepare me for real English conversations.
In the afternoon, I felt a little stressed, and instead of avoiding that feeling, I named it in English. I said, I feel overwhelmed, but I'll take it one step at a time. Quote,
naming emotions in English is powerful. When I say, I feel nervous, or I'm really proud of myself today, it helps me connect emotionally with the language.
By the evening, I noticed my confidence growing. I wasn't afraid of making mistakes anymore. I told myself, mistakes mean I'm learning, and that mindset changed everything.
That mindset is everything. English is not a test. It's a tool. When you stop judging yourself, you start speaking more freely and more honestly.
And that's when English truly becomes yours, not something borrowed from a textbook.
Exactly. It becomes your voice, your thoughts, your story.
If you're listening right now, remember, your daily life is already full of English practice opportunities.
All you need to do is notice them and start speaking.
One sentence at a time.
One story at a time.
And before you know it, English will feel natural.
Just like a part of your everyday life.
And as more days passed, I began to notice how my inner voice in English was changing. It sounded calmer, more confident, and somehow more like me. I wasn't forcing sentences anymore. They just appeared naturally in my mind.
I love that stage. That's when English stops feeling like a foreign language and starts feeling like a second home. You don't panic when you don't know a word. You just explain it another way.
Exactly. One morning, I couldn't remember a specific word, but instead of freezing, I said to myself, it's that thing you use when you're tired and need energy, and I realized communication matters more than accuracy.
That's real communication. Native speakers do that all the time. Even in our own language, we forget words and describe things instead. English learners often forget that.
I also started talking to myself out loud more. At first, I whispered, but later I spoke normally, like I was telling a story to an invisible friend.
I do that too, especially when I'm alone. I'll say things like, okay, let's focus, or this might be difficult, but I can handle it, and it builds confidence and fluency at the same time.
One evening, I recorded myself speaking English freely, without a script. When I listened back, I noticed mistakes, of course, but I also noticed progress, and that felt amazing.
Recording yourself is such a powerful habit. At first, it can be uncomfortable, but it helps you hear your rhythm, your pronunciation, and your improvement over time.
I realized my sentences were getting longer, more natural. I started using pauses instead of stopping completely, just like native speakers do.
Pauses are important. Silence doesn't mean failure. It means you're thinking. When learners accept that, their speech becomes smoother.
I also began to enjoy English content differently. I wasn't just watching or listening. I was reacting. I'd pause a video and say, "I agree with that," or "I see it differently." Quote.
That's such an advanced habit. When you respond to content in English, you turn passive learning into active speaking practice.
Sometimes, I even imagined conversations. I'd picture myself meeting someone new and starting with, "Hey, how's it going?" and then continuing naturally.
Imaginary conversations are underrated. They prepare your brain for real situations. So when they actually happen, you feel ready instead of scared.
Over time, I noticed my fear of accents disappeared. I stopped worrying about sounding perfect and focused on sounding clear and confident.
And that's when your real voice comes out. Accent is part of your identity, not a problem. Confidence makes any accent sound good.
I also learned to celebrate small wins. Even saying one clear sentence without hesitation made me feel proud.
Those small wins add up. They remind you that progress is happening, even when it feels slow.
And honestly, that's when English practice became something I looked forward to, not something I avoided.
That's the goal. When learning feels enjoyable, consistency becomes easy.
So if you're listening and wondering if you can really improve your English speaking,
the answer is yes, right where you are, right now.
Start with your thoughts.
Turn them into sentences.
Turn those sentences into stories.
And one day, you'll realize
English is no longer something you study.
It's something you live.
And once English became part of my daily life, I stopped separating it from who I was. It wasn't study time anymore. It was just life, but in English.
That moment is powerful. When English blends into your routine, your thoughts, your habits, it stops feeling heavy and starts feeling natural.
I remember doing simple things like cooking or cleaning and narrating everything in English. Saying things like, "Okay, now I'm chopping the onions," or "I need to clean this mess later." Quote.
That kind of daily narration trains your brain to think in real-time English. No pressure, no performance, just flow.
Sometimes I'd laugh at myself because the sentences were so simple. But then I realized simple doesn't mean useless. Simple is the foundation.
Exactly. Fluency is built on simple, correct sentences used confidently, not complicated grammar used rarely.
I also noticed that my listening skills improved naturally. Because I was speaking more, my brain started recognizing patterns faster when other people talked.
Speaking and listening grow together. When you speak, you understand how sentences are built, so listening becomes easier and more intuitive.
One day, I watched a movie without subtitles and suddenly realized I hadn't translated anything in my head. I just understood.
That's a huge milestone. That's when you know your brain is processing English directly, not through your native language.
I felt proud, but also calm. Like, oh, this is normal now. Quote.
That calm confidence is the best kind. It means you're no longer chasing fluency, you're living it.
I also stopped being afraid of making mistakes in front of others. If I said something wrong, I corrected myself and moved on.
That mindset changes everything. Mistakes aren't embarrassing, they're feedback.
I even started enjoying conversations with strangers. Small talk didn't feel small anymore. It felt like practice and connection at the same time.
And that's what language is really about, connection, not perfection.
Sometimes people asked me, "How did you get so comfortable speaking English?" And I never knew how to answer in one sentence.
Because it's not one trick. It's a collection of small habits done consistently.
Thinking in English, talking to myself, recording my voice, reacting to content, imagining conversations,
and most importantly, showing up every day, even when motivation was low.
Especially on those days. Those days mattered the most.
If you're watching right now and feeling stuck, remember this. Fluency isn't a sudden jump. It's a quiet transformation.
One sentence at a time.
One thought at a time.
One story at a time.
And if you stay patient with yourself,
you'll wake up one day speaking English without fear.
Without translating.
Without hesitation.
And when that happens,
you'll realize
you didn't just learn English.
You became confident through it.
And that confidence will stay with you everywhere you go.